to me, it's like a reboot for your nervous system. So it's a really quick dip into fight or flight. And that briefness is actually like the power of it, because I picture it kind of like a light switch where your nervous system is like, okay, we got our reboot, we're ready to go. And so by being able to dip your foot into that fight or flight and then come back out, your nervous system is just, it's reset. It's able to rebalance your hormones, and really from a level of chronic pain, it's being able to reduce your inflammation.
Welcome to Beyond the Pain, the podcast that explores what it really takes to break free from chronic pain and reclaim your life. I'm your host, Leigh Brandon, and someone who's spent over 2 decades helping people get to the root cause of pain that no one else could explain. Whether you're dealing with long-term back issues, joint pain, nerve discomfort, or mysterious symptoms that just won't go away, this show is here to help you go deeper. Because beyond the pain, there's clarity, strength, and power waiting for you. Each week, we'll uncover the physical, emotional, biochemical, and energetic causes of pain and how to transform them. Let's dive deep into this week's episode. Today's episode is all about something most people dread: cold water. My guest, Kris Rice, is the founder of ChillPod, a state-of-the-art cold immersion system designed to reset the nervous system in just 2 minutes a day. But here's the twist. Kris used to hate cold water. It was only when she gave it a try that she discovered how transformative it could be for recovery, resilience, and overall well-being. In this conversation, we explore the science behind cold therapy, how it helps with pain and inflammation, and why it's so powerful for mental health and where the future of cold immersion is heading. If you've ever wondered why people are willingly plunging into freezing cold water, or if you're curious how it might help your own health or get rid of pain, then you'll get your answers right here. Kris Rice, welcome to Beyond the Pain. It's great to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. Now, what's quite interesting, I remember 2014. Are you familiar with Paul Chek? Okay, so he's from San Diego. He's been my teacher for 20 odd years, and he was over in the UK teaching some courses. His wife and Angie was here teaching courses as well, and I was walking along with them, and we were talking about cold plunging because where we were staying there was a swimming pool, but it was not a warm time of year, and he was jumping in the pool every morning with his woolly hat on. Yeah, he's got less hair than me. And I remember walking along, and I was having a conversation with them, and I remember saying, "Oh, I don't know about that. That sounds like," because I'm a real warm person. I like being in the warm. I mean, I don't know why I live in this country, because I love warm weather. And I remember his wife, Angie, saying something like, "Oh, you've got to man up. You just got to get on with it and do it." And interestingly, I went back home after that course, and I've never looked back. So I've been doing cold showers ever since, pretty much 360 days a year ever
That's
since.
amazing.
So that was like 11 years ago. So that was kind of my introduction to cold therapy. Now, I know that you've openly said that you hate cold water. I would say I used to. I've changed, I would say.
Nice.
Yeah, it became, cold water became the practice that changed everything for you.
Yeah.
Can you share how that personal shift opened the door to creating the ChillPod and to supporting others in recovery?
Yeah, absolutely. For me, like you said, or similar to you, I like being warm. I don't want to be cold. It's just not appealing to me.
And you live in Oregon.
Exactly. It makes no sense.
You're as bad as me.
It makes zero sense. I should definitely be somewhere warm, but I'm not. So about About 10 or 12 years ago, I have two daughters, the older one of which, when she was young, had a lot of mental health struggles. And so as I, dove into wholeheartedly supporting her, it really was a space that allowed me to see where my own challenges were. So what I could see in her, I could also see in myself for the first time. I held on to a lot of anxiety. I held on to just a lot of overwhelm and not knowing how to process the stress in my life. And so as I looked for ways to support her, I would find ways for me too. And thankfully, I found a lot of things that worked and things that I loved. But the reality was, it became like a full time job to try and actually do these things to get myself to the baseline that I wanted then at that point. And so it was about 3 years ago, I was talking to a friend and she just kept saying, like, but have you tried cold plunging? And my answer consistently was like, no, it sounds awful. I don't want to do it. And I guess she just like caught me on a weak moment. I think I had nothing to lose. And that day when she asked me again, I was like, well, here's the thing, like maybe I'll just do it in secret and not tell anybody. And then if I hate it, I never have to like own up to it and it can just like go away. So I bought a horse trough online. I went and picked it up. I put it in our backyard. I didn't even tell my husband, nobody, until I brought it home because I was like, they're going to think I'm nuts. And so I brought it home and I filled it with hose water. So in all reality, like it wasn't cold, cold water. It was not pleasant, but it was definitely cold. I had a goal to sit in there for one song, which would have been like 4 minutes. I sat in there for 7 and I got out and I had a smile on my face and I felt better than I had in any amount of time that I could remember. And so the reality is I still don't like cold water. I still don't actually want to go in, but how much better I feel on the other side of that doesn't even compare to the distaste for the cold. So it was from that little trough that I would literally sit in there and imagine, like, how could I get more people in cold water? How could I get more people to know this practice that is so simple at the essence of it, but can completely transform your life and how you feel and how you show up. And so that's where ChillPod was born, from this little trough where I just would imagine what it could be. And it all has come to life over the last 2 years.
Amazing. It's interesting because, you could talk about cold plunging in the same way you talk about exercise, right? Most people know it's going to do them good,
Mm-hmm.
but, they might be sitting on their sofa and, they're procrastinating. Oh, I'll just flick through
Yeah.
Facebook for another 5 minutes, right? Or
Yep.
whatever.
Yep.
Or they might be at work and, you know, they normally go to the gym, let's say at lunchtime, or go for a run. Oh, I'll just finish this bit of work, and I think cold plunging is kind of similar
Mm-hmm.
in that it's one of those things where you don't really look forward to do it, but actually once you've done it, you feel so much better
Oh
afterwards.
my gosh. It's true. It's true. I did it right before we came here. So I
Mm,
had like 30 minutes. I was like, I'm going to go plunge real quick. I'll get ready for the interview and away we go. So yeah, the way you show up afterwards and the way you feel, once you know that feeling, there is similar to like the endorphins that you would get from exercise, right? Like it makes you want to do it more.
yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah, it's there is so many parallels. I mean, the other parallel is they're both a stress,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
But what some might call a eustress, that it's actually creating some sort of benefit
Yeah.
for the body. I mean, obviously you can do exercise wrong and you can do cold plunging wrong too, right?
Sure.
You can overdo stress, but in both ways they're stressing the body and they're making you more resilient in
Yep.
in a number of ways, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've always loved sport my entire life, and
Hmm.
I remember when I first started working out, I loved working out, but when you're working out really intensely every single time, it's like
Yeah.
you kind of have to really get yourself up for it. And I remember, I'm going back 30 odd years now, start doing like really heavy squats,
Hmm.
and you used to, again, it was similar to like a cold plunge. It'd be like, oh, here we go. And you have to
We're going to do it for
really,
1 minute.
like, you got to really mentally get yourself in that state, right? But what I found is with exercise, or intense exercise, I should say, and cold plunging, or for me, cold showering, but it's, you know, it's a similar, and it's not as good, but it's a similar response, is that the more I do those things, the less resistance I have to doing them. Like I went and did lunges and squats at the gym this morning. There was no resistance, right? And, you know, this morning I had a cold shower. I don't know, was there any resistance? Maybe a 1 out of 10,
Right.
right?
Right.
And within 5 seconds of being under the water, I'm in.
Exactly. Exactly. It's just like, I think to some degree, it's just like knowing what's on the other side. And then you don't have to keep batting up against that wall of resistance. Like you said, it does break down and it gets lower. And like imagining it being gone isn't always realistic either, which is fine.
Mm, yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure that's the case for a lot of people with exercise as well, right? They know they're going to feel better, but there's still resistance to going. And it's like, I'm going to feel better. Why is there resistance,
Yeah.
right? But
Well, and I think the resistance too, like you said, is like the picture of the extremes too. Like for so many of us, like the picture you get of cold plunging isn't usually a cold shower, which is far more accessible for a lot of people. Or, you know, it is like that picture of literally being submerged in like an icy lake. Like I've never done that, and that's perfectly fine. I have no desire to do that, and that's also fine. You know, I think really kind of shifting that narrative around what it has to be to being able to be something that really works for your body. Like it might be that cold shower is exactly perfect for you. And for somebody else, maybe they do 30 seconds in, you know, 38-degree water, but there's like a lot of room to play and figure out what works for you in between there.
mm, yeah, and I think, again, whether it's exercise, whether it's, you know, cold plunging, you know, you don't go straight in at the top level, right?
No,
You're going to build yourself up. You know,
exactly.
I wouldn't say tomorrow I'm going to go and do an Ironman triathlon, right? First of all, because I would hate doing it anyway.
Sounds
Uh,
awful.
I'm not, I'm not an endurance person, never have been.
Hmm.
But if I tried to do that, you know, I'm probably going to end up in the hospital somewhere, right? Because
Hmm.
I'm just not prepared to be able to handle that
Yeah.
level of stress on the body.
Yep.
And, you know, with cold plunging, and I'm sure this is what you would recommend, you know, don't go straight in at, you know, 1 degree, you
No.
know, obviously I'm talking Celsius.
Sure. Sure.
Um, you know, you'd start at maybe a reasonable temperature. And then as you get more used to it, then you start to drop the temperature down.
Exactly. And you've got two pieces to play with. You've got the temperature, and then you also have your time. So, you know, it's both things, and you just get to have that conversation with your own body to know what's working. And I think, honestly, at the heart of it, like that's a lot of the power of the practice is having that dialogue with yourself and being like, okay, no 2 days are the same. Maybe today I show up and I can do this for twice as long as I could yesterday, and that's fine. But that act of honoring what your body's telling you is enough is very powerful in the rest of everyday life.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, there's so many parallels to exercise, right? You
Hmm.
might say, you know, I'm going to do X on this day and X on that day, but you might wake up that day and you might feel really sore, really
Yes,
tired. Well, then maybe instead of doing something intense, you need to go for a walk or do some yoga or Tai Chi or something like that.
exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I must admit, some days, if I'm on a day where maybe I don't feel great, I might skip my cold shower that day,
Yeah,
you
for
know, and
sure.
I think well, there's always tomorrow and it's no big deal.
Nope, it's no big deal, and I think it is ditching that perfectionism around, like, it must be an everyday thing. I am all for breaking down that story too, because it is a stress on your body, so, like, if in that particular day, maybe you didn't sleep great or whatever it was, like, if your body is already not feeling, like, fully recharged, then that's a good way to be like, "Hey, I'm not gonna add another stress to it. I can go and do something else today." So, I think giving ourselves that grace to just make those choices is really powerful too.
Although I would actually say if you didn't get a good night's sleep, the cold plunge would actually really
Yeah.
wake you up
Yeah,
as well, you know.
exactly.
So, from your perspective, what role does the nervous system play in chronic pain and injury recovery? And why do so many people miss this piece when trying to heal?
Yeah. So for anyone who doesn't know, like with cold plunging or any cold exposure, to me, it's like a reboot for your nervous system. So it's a really quick dip into fight or flight. And that briefness is actually like the power of it, because I picture it kind of like a light switch where your nervous system is like, okay, we got our reboot, we're ready to go. And so by being able to dip your foot into that fight or flight and then come back out, your nervous system is just, it's reset. It's able to rebalance your hormones, and really from a level of chronic pain, it's being able to reduce your inflammation. So much of the inflammation that you're holding in your body just from that brief cold exposure is really able to just flush out in a way that I'm challenged to find anything else that can do it that quickly. Obviously, like meditation and yoga and other grounding practices are really powerful to reset your nervous system. There are many ways to do it, but I have never found anything else that only takes a matter of seconds, if not minutes, to feel entirely different. And to your point on the pain component, oftentimes if I've done a workout where I wake up and I'm really sore the next day, hop in the cold plunge and come back out, and you literally feel like a different person. It really is. It's wild. So I think for what is really helpful for people maybe to know is, with a lot of things like exercise, it takes a long time to build up and start seeing or feeling change, where this is something very immediate. So for me, that was something that was really helpful because it's not on the surface desirable. But if you know that in 2 minutes, you're literally going to not feel the pain in your back or whatever that is, that's appealing, and that can get you to give it a try.
Let's take a quick break because this story might resonate if you're someone who loves to push your limits, only to be pulled back by pain. Stephen was a banker and an aspiring Ironman triathlete. Every time he trained hard, whether for ski season or for triathlon, he'd get knocked back by injury. He felt stuck in a cycle of effort followed by disappointment. After working together on a holistic plan that fit his lifestyle, Stephen not only had the best ski season ever, but he also completed his first Ironman. And he did it pain-free. And he even referred a friend who went on to run his fastest marathon time yet. If pain keeps stealing your progress, download my free chronic pain breakthrough blueprint at www.bodycheck.co.uk/free pain guide. You deserve to train without setbacks. Yeah, another thing I would add there is, a lot of people use caffeine, right? That they need their caffeine fix every day.
Yeah.
Well, you can replace that with cold therapy.
Yeah.
And whereas, like if you're drinking coffee, for instance, that can be quite inflammatory.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're in pain, you're taking something into the body that's increasing inflammation.
Yeah.
You could replace the caffeine with the cold therapy, take away the inflammatory aspect, but also add an anti-inflammatory aspect, i.e. the cold,
Mm-hmm.
and obviously just, if someone is a coffee drinker, don't go cold turkey because it is a drug you have to wean yourself off. But cold plunging might enable you to do it quicker. You might be able to, come off of something like caffeine much quicker.
Yeah.
And, if you're in pain, it's going to really help, reduce that inflammation. That would be quite a good thing to do.
To your point on the comparison to caffeine too, a lot of research will show that it's the practice is most powerful in the morning for a variety of reasons. It's balancing your circadian rhythm. It's giving you an energy boost for the day. But that energy boost is real. So if you are trying to shift out of caffeine or something like that, it can definitely be a replacement. And I'm always one to experiment. So I had some people tell me, oh, well, I love doing it at night because I just everything feels like it sloughs off of me and I'm so relaxed and ready to go to bed. So I tried that and that did not work. It was like it was like I had had all this caffeine and was ready to go and had no desire to go to sleep. So everyone's different, and it's worth your own experiment there. But for me, it can be a good morning jolt for sure.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I do know some people it definitely does work for to
Hmm.
help sleep. Again, you think what happens when you sleep, your body temperature drops,
Yep.
right? But obviously the opposite side to it is if you've just done a cold plunge, your body's going to try and warm itself up.
Yeah.
So you've got a two-way thing there. But one of the things that's really evident, when you look at elite sport, you look at, you know, my sport is tennis.
Hmm.
And when you look at, professionals, quite often they're playing 5, 6, 7 days a week.
Hmm.
That's brutal. And, nearly all of them use cold therapy
Yep.
after they've played every day
Yeah.
to reduce the inflammation that's been caused on that day. You know, now I know there have been studies done as well on rugby league players.
Hmm.
And what they found was that when rugby league players use ice baths
Hmm.
directly after playing, they actually lose muscle mass.
Yeah.
And the theory is because it actually prevents the inflammatory aspect of, they've just, let's just say, broken down muscle tissue during the match.
Yeah.
Now they get into an ice bath, it prevents the inflammation, but it's the inflammation that leads to the muscle growth
Yep.
afterwards,
Yep.
right?
I
So
have read that too, out adjacent to rugby, but kind of more in like everyday, average person use of cold plunging and exercise. And most of the research does show like you're much better off to plunge and then go do your workout as opposed to the opposite. And most people instinctually think it's the opposite. I've gotten warmed up for my workout. I've done all of this hard stuff for my body. I should jump right in the cold. And it really is the opposite. Like you are kind of, I always imagine it just sort of like cutting short or restricting all of the good that you've just done for your body. So if you can reverse that, it's an interesting way to really boost it does definitely boost your strength during the workout, and then, your ability to build the muscle that you're looking to build.
yeah, I mean, that's exactly what I do. So I
Yeah.
tend to work out relatively early in the morning, and it's not straight after a cold shower, but it's normally within 1 to 2 hours
Yeah.
normally. But what I do post like a tennis match,
Hmm.
I actually use contrast therapies.
Nice.
It's obviously it's easy to do in a shower, but if you've got a cold plunge
Hmm.
and you've got an infrared sauna,
Yep.
that's another way to do the same thing. So
Yeah.
obviously, when you're in the cold, everything constricts,
Hmm.
and then when you're hot, everything expands. So you're getting that flow of fluids and blood to and from the tissues that have just exercised.
Yep.
And what I find, I'm getting on a bit. I'm probably playing a bit too physical a level for my age of tennis, but what I find is if I play on consecutive days,
Hmm.
as long as I do a contrast shower and, I do my stretching and foam rolling,
Hmm.
I'll wake up the next day and I won't even know that I've played the day before.
Isn't that amazing?
But if I don't do that, I can barely get out of bed,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And then I'll turn up and I'll be trying to warm my serve up and, I'll be making all, old man noises, "Ah, ah," you know. So yeah, there's so many ways in which you can use cold therapy as well.
Hmm.
There's not just one way. So yeah, for me, before exercise, cold; after exercise, the contrast.
Yep.
Whether that's in a shower or
Yeah.
combining a cold plunge with a sauna, which Scandinavians have been doing for centuries, right?
Oh, I mean, that's the part that kind of just makes me giggle about like it being a fad. And I'm like, but actually, this has been done for like hundreds and hundreds of years. So this is not, it might look and feel a little bit different, but it's definitely not something that has not existed and been used in different cultures for a very long time.
One thing I know you wrote about this on your website. I read it this morning. Is your husband's long battle with back pain?
Yeah.
What did his journey with cold plunging teach you about overcoming resistance and finding relief from persistent pain.
Yeah, what I find so interesting and has been very evident between the two of us is I obviously was going for more of the mental health support and the intangible pieces, and he definitely came at it from a place of just wanting to move on from this chronic back pain that he had, which once he did it, he realized that well, for one, he also was very resistant. He was like, I don't want to do it either. And then when he was staring at the trough out there in the backyard every day, it became like, well, why not? So that wore down quickly. But what he realized is when he holds stress in his body, it just goes to this one particular spot in his back and it nestles in and stays there. So he was able to finally have a perspective of like what the cause was, as opposed to just having no idea what that was. And it's amazing. I mean, it took a few times to realize like, oh, I got out and it's not coming back. So, and then if he stayed out of it for a few days, travel for work, things like that, he'd be like, oh, it kind of crept back. He'd hop in and it's gone. It literally just flushes out in the water. And so, what was interesting in that was to see like it gave him that perspective to be able to realize, oh, I have these stressors come up. It goes in my back. Here's a solution that moves it out. And then really to have that perspective of, I think the water really can bring the relief that you as a person are needing. So whether that is everybody's going to have and experience a mix of the physical and mental benefits, but I think for the most part, like people do have one side that they lean a little more heavily to, and that might even be for just a season of life, or maybe just as a person you edge towards one or the other. But I think it's helpful to know that both exist and both will be there as opportunities for you to really change and shift.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely notice physical and mental uplift afterwards for sure. Um, one thing, one thing I know that obviously affects people in pain is if they're carrying excess weight.
Hmm.
Obviously, that's going to put more stress through the tissues, through the structure of the body, the
Yeah.
joints. What's your understanding of how cold therapy um, can aid fat loss?
Yeah. So what I understand it to be is so basically the cold supports the brown fat, which is the good fat. So what I learned recently was that the vast majority of the brown fat that you have in your body is actually down your back, so like from your shoulder blades down. And so when you think about it, if you're immersed in cold water, like that's all covered, right? So that's all getting supported by that cold water. And so the cold just increases the brown fat and reduces the white fat. And so you're really getting rid of that weight that you're not wanting to hold on to, and you're boosting that brown fat. So you're kind of converting it from one to the other. And that brown fat helps you build more lean muscle mass, and it helps you to really have a faster metabolism, which is why you then, for some people, it can definitely aid in weight loss. And it's one of those things where it's like, what do you have to lose? Try it. If you're looking to lose weight, that's a great way to at least experiment. And there's zero side effects. I mean, worst case, it's like doing a meditation. Like worst case, you like took a nap and then, you move on. And worst case in the cold plunge, maybe you don't feel any different, or maybe you stay in too long and you have the ramifications of that, but it's nothing compared to other potential weight loss drugs or things like that you might be exploring otherwise.
Yeah, which we're finding out more and more the terrible side effects that those things have as
Yeah.
well, right? And
It's just like everything has a side effect to it for the most part, unless it is coming from a very, nature made place. So, the water's not going to really bring anything that's going to be detrimental for you.
yeah, well, I would say the only caveat would be it needs to be clean water, right?
That's fair.
Yeah, if there's toxins in the water, then they're going to seep through the skin. But
Yes.
most people are using toxic tap water anyway every day, right?
Yeah.
They're bathing in it, they're showering in it, they're cooking with it, they're drinking it,
Yeah.
But yeah, if you are going to cold plunge, just like I would recommend with drinking and cooking, make sure it's good quality water as well.
Yep, exactly. And I was going to say the obvious other thing to be aware of is, if you do have any heart conditions or concerns about your heart's ability to be able to go into that more extreme environment, always just consult your doctor and see if that is something that they would recommend, or if that for any reason isn't something for you. So not something to glaze over and take lightly. If that's something that would worry you, certainly check it out.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you know, is there any contraindication for pacemakers? Do you know?
Ooh, that's a great question. I don't know the answer to that. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go. There's some research for you to do now.
Yeah. I'm not a doctor, so I was gonna say my opinion, but I was like, that's just my own personal thought and opinion. I'm not gonna share that.
I mean, I know a place where I used to work in central London many, many years ago. I
Mhm.
remember hearing a story of, it was in the middle of summer. It was a very hot day, and there was a guy who was, he was a construction worker, and he went to go and swim in this swimming pool, and he dived in. Literally, the water was really cold, and
Mm,
he literally had a heart attack and died.
yeah. Yeah.
Sadly, in the water from the shock, going from really warm to really cold.
Sure. Yeah.
It was an outdoor pool.
Mhm.
So yeah, that was quite a sad story. So in that respect, you do need to be careful, and that
Yes.
again goes back to what I was saying. If you're going to start doing something like this, you start gently. You don't
Yes.
go, where there's ice blocks. The
No.
water's so cold, it's iced over the top, right?
No.
You want to just go in gently, like you would with exercise. You wouldn't go hell for leather, exercise. You build up gradually.
No, exactly. And I think it's just dispelling that myth that like colder's better, longer's better. All of those things are not true, really. Like you can go for a short amount of time in a warmer temperature water and you will still get the benefits from it. So, give yourself that ability to play with it and really like get your body accustomed to it before you start, going to more extremes if you ever even want to. It's okay to not want that too.
Can we talk about the kind of pain people often hide? The kind that affects your gut, your skin, your energy, and your confidence. Sharon, a finance professional, came to me with stomach pain, breakouts, insomnia, and exhaustion. She felt run down, bloated, and stuck in survival mode. With the right testing and a personalized plan, Sharon healed her gut, cleared her skin, started sleeping through the night, and the weight around her middle melted off without even trying. If your body feels like it's giving up on you, don't ignore the signs. Download my chronic pain breakthrough blueprint for free at www.bodycheck.co.uk/free pain guide. You can feel like yourself again. Are there ranges? I mean, I guess, in the chill pods, there are a range of temperatures that people can set it to.
Yeah.
What are the kind of ranges that you tend to have on your devices?
Yeah, so for the ChillPod, we actually go cold to hot. So it's a hot tub and a cold plunge in one. So in theory, you could cold plunge in the morning and do heat in the evening, and that's kind of your whole day. But I apologize. I'm going to give it to you in Fahrenheit because I don't know the conversions in my head. But actually, I do. It'll be like nearly probably 2 or 3 degrees for you. But in general, so cold plunging itself is anything from 40 to 60 degrees Fahrenheit. So you've got a really wide range there. And I will also say I have started playing with, which I'm kind of excited about, and I'm excited to hear other people's experience with, is actually playing with a higher temperature than that, but for longer. So sitting in like 70-degree water, but for 25 minutes, something like that. And it's really interesting because you sit in there, and I've done it a few times now, and you're like, oh, this is nothing. Like, it's fine. Put on a podcast, you listen to it, and just hang out for a while. And then after like 15 minutes, your body starts shivering. And so you start feeling that it's almost like a slow boil, like it's kind of just starts to build up in you. And obviously that shiver can be something that people do try and seek as like, okay, I've done the thing. My body's shivering. It's reacting to what I've done. I've done the work. And so, The fact it just kind of like a different experience of that, I think is the cool thing about having a temperature controlled system because you can say, okay, I love it at 46. That's usually what I have it at. My husband actually likes it a little bit warmer, so he puts it a little bit warmer. And so, you have that ability to actually know what you're playing with as opposed to when I first had my trough and I would take my kids' storage bins and make giant blocks of ice so that and then have my little floating temperature so I would know what it was. But to have it be temperature controlled and clean is definitely helpful.
Mm. You know, mentioning Fahrenheit reminded me. So back in the 70s, growing up, there used to be an open air swimming pool
Yeah.
near where I lived. And as you walked in, it would tell you what the temperature of the water was in
Yeah.
Fahrenheit. Well, let me tell you, we would have been cold plunging back then
Yeah, yeah.
because it was cold. And whenever you got out, you were really,
Uh-huh.
like, I remember it would have been, yeah, some days it would be 30 something degrees
Yeah.
Fahrenheit.
That sounds awful. That
Well, I mean, you're a kid, you just love swimming,
You
right?
don't
You
care.
just swim around and then you get out and you warm up.
Yep.
You put a towel on but
You were
yeah, that would
definitely
have,
cold plunging back in the day.
because they weren't heated pools.
Yeah,
They were heated by the sun, but then oftentimes we didn't get the sun,
exactly. No, our
you
climates
know?
are very similar. I
Mm,
totally get that.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, that just brought back a memory I hadn't thought about for a very,
That's
very long
funny.
time.
Yeah. Yeah, but when you're a kid, you're like swimming and you're running and you're doing all those things. So like it feels very different than just sitting in the water and like kind of waiting for yourself to react to it.
Mm. Yeah, actually reminds me as well, back in mid-80s, I was in Australia with my parents and we traveled. So we was in Western Australia and we were in the middle of nowhere. I mean,
Hmm.
hours and hours and hours from a city. And we stopped off at this place and there was a little waterfall
Mm,
and there were some little stairs. You could go down and you could just swim around in this little, I
yeah.
don't know what you'd call it, a lagoon or something.
Yeah.
And I remember getting in thinking, whoa, this is cold. And then my dad came along and put his foot in and my dad was like, how on earth are you in that? Because it's so cold. And I remember
Yeah.
it was really cold.
Yeah.
I mean, you wouldn't expect that. And, I mean, the temperature outside was about 40
Hmm.
Celsius, which, what would that
That's
be?
warm.
About 110
Yeah.
Fahrenheit. But the water was almost ice cold. It was,
Interesting. Well, if
yeah.
it's constantly moving, anytime that you have a water flow, it's never going to have a chance to really warm up even when it's hot outside.
Yeah. And it was, it was surrounded by rocks as well,
Yeah.
so yeah. Coming back with all these old memories of experiencing really cold
I love
water
it.
that I'd forgotten about. So, a lot of people who are in pain, they often feel fragile or hesitant to try something that sounds as intense as a cold
Yeah.
plunge. How do you guide someone to start in a safe, approachable way without overwhelming their system?
Hmm. I think it goes back to again just baby steps. So for if somebody was in really long-lasting chronic pain, I would start as small as you could possibly start. So that to me would probably be doing more of just your hands in a cold bowl of water. So that might be even no ice. That might be just as cold as you can make your tap and putting your hands in that water. And what people myself included, may not realize is that your hands actually have tons and tons of nerve endings in them. So while it might feel like, oh, that's nothing, like it's just my hands, they're actually like the most sensitive part of you. So if you're submerging that, you can get a lot of benefit just from your hands. So again, like break it down to the smallest step that you can do. And that's where I would start is just a bowl of cold water. If you're like, oh, I don't feel anything, that's fine. Maybe you add a couple of ice cubes and you kind of just keep experimenting with it. But I would start there and then I would go towards a cold shower. So, taking that, and obviously that's very adjustable for you too. If you're going to know when it's the right amount of cold for you, and that doesn't have to be as cold as it can get, you can start working your way there. So, those would be the places that I would start. conversely to the hands, you could also do your feet. So, a lot of times I hear women in particular have like Raynaud's or a circulation disorder. So they'll actually be really hesitant to do a cold exposure because of that challenge. So another thing you could do is put your feet in cold water. But you could also protect those pieces of you. You could put, a type of sock over it, something like that, to just like protect yourself a little bit from the sting that would come from the cold.
Yeah, and I guess we've kind of been saying all along, you can build up the time as well,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Like with the shower, I would start literally at like 3 breaths. See if you can do it for 3 breaths, and then that's gonna give you an anchor of something for your mind to think about, because your mind's always gonna try and think of a way out of it. It's always gonna try and say, "Nope, we are not safe, we should do this instead," to keep you in that same place that you're in. So if you instead give it something to focus on, like your breath, instead or counting, you could count up to 15. Just give yourself something to do, and then your mind will focus on that. And then you'll probably, my bet is, because most people are like, well, that was nothing. I can totally do that. And then you kind of just start building up that muscle memory to say, okay, now I can do 4 breaths. Now I can do 5, and you get there. But start at the start at that like lowest point that you might not even notice what the change is, and work from there, as opposed to trying to go to the extreme and work your way back. You'll feel much more empowered by starting at a small place and being able to do more potentially, or do more quickly. So that will definitely like set you up for the best success.
Yeah, I think one thing I would say to anyone who maybe hasn't tried it or maybe tried it and thought this isn't for me, it's too hard. My experience is that whenever, whether it's a cold plunge or a cold shower, yeah, the first of all you're in shock if it's
Mhm.
cold enough, right? You go,
Mhm.
and you literally can't breathe.
Mhm.
What I find is uh, literally 3 deep breaths.
Mhm.
That's the hard bit done because now I'm in. Once I'm in
Yeah.
and I've controlled my breath,
Yes.
I could, I mean, not all day, but I could stay in there a long time.
Yeah.
It's just that initial shock. So I'm sure a lot of people had that initial shock. And, oh, I can't stand this. I'll get out. It's
Yeah.
like, no, no, no. Just take some deep breaths, get your breathing under
Mhm.
control. And then within a few seconds, you'll actually be able to handle it.
It's true. And it makes me think of too, like the more that you can ground yourself in your 5 senses, the better off you'll be too. So like for me, I love a sound to go along with it. Sometimes it's like I go all over the board. It can be anything from music to like, I don't know, mantras or whatever it is, but I like something to listen to so that I'm not just stuck in my thoughts, especially in that first time of getting in there. And then you anchor yourself in your breath. And then maybe you look around and see the things that are around you, or maybe you close your eyes so that you kind of take away that sense. It's just like considering those ways that you're layering in all of your senses so that it is the whole body experience that it's meant to be.
Mm. Yeah. The other thing, I'm just thinking, myself in a cold plunge.
Yeah.
Let's say I'm doing 2 minutes, right?
Yeah.
I'm counting down
Yeah.
from 120 because
Yeah.
because the number's getting smaller,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So for me that works.
Yep.
And normally what happens is, if I've set a timer for 2 minutes, it goes off before I get to 0 anyway, and it's almost like, oh, I'm done
Totally.
now, you
Totally.
know. So yeah, that's just another little tip someone might
Totally.
want to
Some
use.
people love timers and like either the visual of them. So they literally, that might be something that you just want to watch tick down and be like, okay, I'm halfway there. I'm almost done. That can be really encouraging for some people. And yeah, just consider those ways, like what motivates you? What do you like? What will pass the time? Things like that, because you're exactly right. Like once you have something else to focus on outside of your own thought process, it's actually surprising how fast the time can pass.
I know I've listened to a few podcasts with Andrew Huberman, and
Mhm.
obviously he talks a lot about cold and hot therapy,
Yeah.
and I believe he suggests it's the kind of sweet spot is like 11 minutes a week.
A week. Yeah.
But obviously that depends on the temperature as well, right? So if you're
Of
going
course.
a bit warmer, you're gonna have to spend longer. What's kind of, again, we've kind of said, everyone's different. You got to do
Mhm.
it what's right for you. But what's kind of like your overall view? Like, do you have a set amount that might be optimal for most people, like say 11 minutes a week?
Yeah.
I have another story that might hit home, especially if you've been stuck in a loop of injury and disappointment. Ian was a semi-pro footballer dealing with a groin injury for over 3 years. He saw specialists, had surgery, spent thousands, but the pain always came back. He felt defeated and like his playing days were over. When we dug deeper, we found issues that no one had addressed. And that made all the difference. Today, Ian's back on the pitch, stronger, more agile, and full of confidence. If you're stuck in the same cycle and want a real lasting solution, download my chronic pain breakthrough blueprint at www.bodycheck.co.uk/free pain guide. It could be your turning point.
I agree with the 11 minutes. I think I've heard it from him and I've heard it from another woman who, Susanna Soberg, that's who it is. She's another great voice in that space. And I agree with them. I love that approach of, instead of it must be every day or I have to stay in for 2 minutes every time. I love the flexibility of just saying, hey, over a week, I'd like to do it for this amount of time. I think it gives you a lot of room to just make that work for your body and to do what's best for you, and to know that, again, it doesn't have to be 40 minutes or something like this extreme amount of time. It really is a small amount of time in the week. So I love that approach, and I share that often as well. Just thinking about it as, over 7 days, how long do I want to be in there? And then breaking that down. And it could be, 4 minutes at a higher temperature one day and 1 minute the following at a colder. You have room to do that. But I think the 11 is a sweet spot.
Mm, yeah. I mean, someone that uses a shower, it is dependent on time of year
Of course.
as
Yes.
as to how cold it can get. Um, once we get into December, January, February here,
You're
the
good.
water's really cold.
Yeah.
Um, but in the summer here,
Hmm.
it's almost like it's not even cold,
I know.
you
Especially
know?
if you can tolerate over the winter of it being really cold, then conversely, like, as it raises, you notice that it's not like as impactful, but you're still doing it. So,
Mm, yeah,
maybe you do it for a little bit longer. That's okay.
yeah. Yeah, it was interesting this year because it felt like the water temperature was warmer than I'd ever
Yeah,
experienced before. I don't know if that's just me changing or
sure.
whether the actual water temperature. I mean, we had an okay summer. Certainly better than last year.
Hmm.
But my thought process was, yes, but stay in the habit of doing it.
Yeah. Yeah,
And then, when it gets round to autumn, as it is now, it's getting colder now.
totally.
And then when you think about it, if you think about how we developed as a species, we would have gone into the water that would have been a particular temperature dependent on the time of year anyway,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So it's kind of a natural way of doing it. But I do find that the water here, and it's different from where. So when I used to live in London,
Hmm.
the water didn't get as cold as it does here,
Interesting.
right? It's like really cold. I feel like if
Yeah.
when it gets to like January, February, it feels like once I'm done for 2 minutes, if I really bit down on my gum shield, I could probably do another minute.
Hmm.
But I feel like if I did more than that, it would probably do damage. It's
Yeah.
that cold,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. I believe that.
Um, but yeah, in the summertime, I could put it on full cold. I
Yeah.
could probably do an hour,
Yeah.
you know?
No, I think that's the case most places, and at least you have more seasons too. You think of places where it's consistently warm all the time. You may or may not have as much access to just cold showers as much as other places do, but you work with what you have.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, that's where, the ChillPod can be quite useful, right?
Yes, yes, definitely. I mean, when you really get into it and if you're trying to cool a body of water, it's really hard to keep cold water both clean and temperature controlled. So that's where the idea of ChillPod really came in, was like, how can we make this easy for people? Because nobody wants to have to spend all day trying to make cold water.
Yeah, I mean, for me, so I live in an apartment, but
Yeah.
I've got some really big balconies,
Hmm.
and they're easily big enough to have some kind of cold
Yeah,
plunge. The only difficulty I have is getting the electricity out there for like a
sure.
filter and or things like that. So
Yep.
that's why I've just stuck to the
Yeah.
showers. But I would prefer a cold plunge. I think it would be more effective than a shower.
Yeah. No,
Um,
if you've done it for that long, you would definitely love it.
yeah, yeah, for sure. So beyond physical recovery, I know we've spoken a little bit about this already. What are some of the emotional and mental health benefits that you've seen when people use cold plunging as part of their healing process?
Yeah. I think there's several that come to my mind. One is definitely your focus. So I always picture it that it's almost like this little lightning rod goes up through my body and it just clears out my mind. And so I can tell from just my workflow during the day, things like that, I can tell if I've plunged or not. Like my thought process and decision making is just different. It's faster, it's more clear. And so that mental clarity for me is one of the big draws to doing it. Um, Certainly reduces anxiety, that's we all struggle, I think, to some degree with anxious and worried thoughts, and that just helps me flush those out and not be carrying around like this building load of anxiety. It's more it flushes out, it'll start building again, and then we'll do the cycle over again. Um, and I think there's also this element of resilience that there is too. Well, resilience and almost bravery too, of you've done this difficult thing. You've put yourself in this hard situation. And what's amazing to me is how that transcends into other areas of your life. So yes, you've done this in a cold water setting, which is not really like your work or your family, but showing up and doing that and proving to yourself that you can get through that difficult situation literally helps you show up differently in your everyday situations. So I find myself being able to do more and more difficult things that I may or may not have thought I could do before. But now I'm like, I'm not afraid of it. I'm going to try it. And then, we'll see where it goes. So I think that taking those practices and those skills that you learn in those moments in the water and transcending them into real life is really where I almost get the most excited for people, because it really can, those couple of minutes can transform how you're showing up in the rest of your life, which is what we all want.
Yeah, I've got some questions I'm going to come to in a minute about the chill pod itself.
Sure.
But have you got any kind of stories of people that have used the chill pod and they've managed to heal like a painful condition, or
Hmm.
maybe they've had a mental health issue and they've used that as part of their plan to help them? Got any stories along those lines?
Yeah, similarly, I actually just told this story yesterday. There was another podcast that I was on, and the woman who was hosting it, her whole podcast was about her life being or having bipolar disorder. And so, as research for the episode, she had never tried cold plunging, and she was like, "But I don't want to come in having no semblance of what this feels like or is." So she went and found a place to go cold plunge before our conversation. And she was like, I literally feel different already. She's like, I thought I would do it once and I did it 3 times before I came to this conversation. And she reached out to me as our episode launched and she's like, you changed my life. She doesn't have a chill pod right now, full disclosure. But she found a way to get in cold water and she's like, it literally has transformed me. I feel so much better than I have ever. And so, that from a mental health perspective is just it gives me goosebumps every time I think about it. Like, that's what I'm trying to help change.
Mm, mm. Do you have any specific stories of people in pain that it's helped?
I mean, the one that comes to mind is my husband. I'm sure I'll have another
Mm,
one come to mind like immediately after we talk about something else, but that's the one that really like resonates with or just comes top of mind. Let me circle back. If I think of another one, I'll
mm,
tell you for sure.
yeah, yeah. So, yeah, I want to circle back from what we started talking about at the beginning.
Yeah.
So, you bought this horse trough, you started cold plunging. How did the circle close in terms of, okay, so now you're producing the chill pod. How did you get from
Yeah.
the horse trough to, and I've seen pictures of the chill pod. They look fantastic. They
Thank
look
you.
so amazing. How did you get from the trough to the chill pod?
It was a very windy road, so there was nothing, like, linear and about it, but, like I said, I would sit in there and my image was that, 1, I wanted more women to get in cold water because, there's not a woman I talk to who's like, "Super, tell me more, I wanna hop in." Everybody doesn't wanna do it. So I thought, what are the ways to help women get in there and feel better? And so to me, it came down to aesthetics, the way that it would look. How to, like, my horse trough was this weird conversation piece in my backyard. People would come over and we'd laugh about it. And, like, I was over that. I was like, I want this to be something beautiful that people, maybe don't even know what it is, but they want to know more and that it actually lifts up your space, complements it, that there is this design element to it. But then most of all, I wanted it to have this human, like, to elevate the human experience of cold plunging. So sitting in a trough is not cool or sexy. It's uncomfortable and it's not a great experience. And so
Or an old chest freezer, as some people
not
do?
oh no. No, same. So I thought, how can the body be held? And so what you may or may not be able to see from the pictures, you can see it better from video, is we built a chair into it. So it literally has like a club chair built into it, which no other cold plunge has. And so what I learned was I had all these ideas of what it could be. And what I didn't know was that a whole industry exists of product designers who can take your mini ideas and turn them into shape and form. And so, as so many times happens, like something seemingly awful happens and it leads you to the right place. We had a huge ice storm here in Oregon a couple of years ago. It broke a pipe in our house. We flooded our bathroom. It had to get rebuilt. And through the process of having contractors here and people working on my house, I was like, well, why don't I just ask them? Like, they might know a builder. And so I was down a road of trying to find a new builder. The first one didn't work out. And they said, I don't think you need a builder. I think you need a product designer. And I was like, great. I don't know what that is, but sounds good. So they connected me with a company that I still work with that were the people who came, listened to all my ideas, looked at what I was starting with, and could picture the vision that I was putting out there. And so that was really where it started to go fast at that point was, they could translate that into an actual item. And then we had to figure out how to manufacture it, which is very challenging. And so, had to figure that out and how to transport them and get them over there. There's been many big and little bumps along the way, but our first order is actually shipping here in the next week or two. So very excited to get them here and in people's hands and I have the prototype in my backyard, but to have like real life experiences in the product, I can't wait for it.
Yeah, just going back to the chair aspect.
Yeah.
So the one thing that I was thinking is that would probably be beneficial for older people because they're not having to lay down and get back out.
Yep.
Have you thought of a way of, if it's an older person, I'm almost thinking you need rails for them to hold on to get in and out as well.
You are very wise. We're building a rail as we speak. So, yeah, the idea was to have it be very sleek and modern. And at the end of the day, we're primarily selling these into businesses, whether that's hotels or fitness facilities, all those types of things. And safety has to come first. So, we're building a beautiful rail to go on one side because that way you can put one leg in. It's actually, you can't tell it from the pictures. You have to really see it in person, but the top of the stair equals the top of the seat. So it's a really easy transition, but it can look daunting. So that's why we just want to take away any element of concern of can I get in there? Because from an age perspective, like what better way to extend your longevity? So I want to get as many folks of all ages in the cold water to see how it can support them.
Yeah, where I live, there's 4 rivers
Yeah.
that are within half a mile,
Hmm.
and all times of year, you will see elderly people swimming in the rivers.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah,
Yeah. There's a person, I met him online, but he actually lives in the Portland area, and he had leukemia and cured it from going in the cold water. So he went in natural bodies of water around us, which obviously in the winter are very cold, and within a year he was cancer free. So, yeah, when you hear stories like that, you're like, "Oh, this is worth doing."
mm. So it sounds to me like the process from the trough to the chill pod has been extremely fast.
It has
Yeah,
been fast. It really from idea to prototype was about a year and a half. So, and then from prototype till product landing is about 11 months. So yeah,
really fast.
it was really fast. I think I was trying to find my entrepreneurial niche for a while, and so by the time that I finally went all in and saying like, "Yes, ChillPod is my thing. That's where I'm going." Once I gave that all my energy, it really snowballed fast.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I've had a few people on the show already who are developing, for want of a better word for it, recovery centers.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And they've
Yeah.
got maybe a cold plunge, an infrared sauna,
Yep.
hyperbaric oxygen chamber,
Mhm.
red light therapy. Lady on recently who does cold atmospheric plasma
Mm,
on a thing called the I think it's called human regenerator. It seems to be a really thriving
yeah.
business at the moment. It's quite interesting because I had one guy on from Chicago who's literally just about to open, or he's probably well, he'll be open now.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking to myself, "Oh, that sounds like a real like niche market that's just not tapped into in the UK."
Yeah.
And then within the next few weeks, I just saw all these new places open up, and I thought, "Wow, I've missed that boat. Someone else has got in there." So it seems like you're really onto something there as well in terms of from your own business perspective.
Well, thank you.
I know,
Thank
I
you.
know. Obviously, there's more behind it than just making money. It's about helping people.
Yep. Exact. It's
Um,
both. Yeah, it's all the pieces, and I think what I didn't realize going into it that I can see now as I look into the market and where all these opportunities lie is, for so many years, people have been focused on fitness and, the very broad term of wellness, right? And from everyone that I talk to, from a hospitality perspective, from like a Soho House, different places like that. The number one thing that people are asking for is cold plunges. And the reality is like fitness has been built out, but recovery hasn't yet. And so recovery is really where businesses are realizing that they need to be able to meet the customer's needs. That's what people are looking for. They don't just want to go get a hard workout every day. They want to balance that out with the other side of recovery.
mm. Yeah, I mean, a friend of mine has a gym in Scotland. It's actually quite a big gym now,
Mm,
and he's just put in. I've only seen the photos and videos. I think he might even have more than one cold plunge in there from what
yeah.
I've seen.
Yeah.
But again, he's got a quite a kind of what you might call recovery
Yeah.
space in his facility. So yeah, it's definitely something that's growing.
Definitely.
in the marketplace,
Yep.
and something that I think more and more people are starting to realize the benefits of, and therefore that's why the market's there.
Yep. Exactly. I totally agree.
So for you, the chill pod is mainly for commercial premises, like those we've just been talking about, gyms, leisure centers, clinics,
Honestly,
potentially.
it's for both. We're primarily focusing from an outreach perspective on B2B because that's a place where more people are able to experience it. They're able to bring something in that might not be, it takes a small footprint. And so it's an easy thing to add into their space. But absolutely people can bring them into their homes. The beauty is it can go inside and out. So seasonally, you can choose where you want to have it. Flexibility was really a key for us, whether that was for businesses and commercial use or from a residential perspective. But in any case, wanted it to really up level the space and then also bring all the health benefits.
So are they quite easy to move?
They are. So they're a little awkward. So like yes, one person could definitely move it, but like wrapping your hands around it would be hard. So we can just put it on a dolly, you can move it, and it's super simple. It's really lightweight when it doesn't have water in it.
Yeah, yeah, because there's no sharp edges on you. It's all very smooth, isn't it, and
Exactly.
shapely.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. Again, I just want to say that they look stunning. Like
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
out of all the cold plunges I've seen, it's different level. What do you have any view on cryotherapy chambers? Because obviously it's still cold therapy. Do you have any particular view on those?
I will preface my view of being more from a personal than a like deeper research perspective just because I've spent my time and energy more in the cold water space, but I've tried it. I've tried it a couple of times. I think that for me, that falls into more of the extreme category, which is not what my body loves as much. I definitely didn't get the natural energy boost and high after that I get after I cold plunge. I actually felt depleted and I felt like it was too much for my body. Um, and I also think, I mean, this is going to maybe sound silly, but to me it is meaningful too, is like it was just I didn't love the experience of standing there in like mittens and having somebody watch me while I'm in there. Like the whole experience felt very odd and uncomfortable, I guess is a way to explain it. So for me, like it just wasn't a land. It hurt my skin. It felt like too much and it just wasn't a great experience. And from a bit of the research that I have done on it in general, you can obviously expose your body to cold water more than you can the cryotherapy. That's more of like, maybe once a week, maybe once a month, you're doing something like that where the water is easy, like more gentle on your system, not easier, but gentler on your system where you can have more of an ongoing experience with that. Where if you did that in a cryo tank every day would be like very extreme for your body.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've not experienced it myself,
Yeah,
but I have seen. Most of the Premier League soccer teams in the UK
yeah,
tend to have them at their
sure.
training grounds, and you see all the players. They just don't want to go in there.
Uh-uh.
You know.
It literally felt like my the back. If they say like wherever is the sorest would have the most physical sensation to it. It felt like my calves were on fire. Like it just was not a comfortable feeling.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Awesome, Kris. This has been a great discussion. So, apart from getting out the chill pod to the world, what's next for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that is the thing. So we'll have it out, and if anybody wants to follow along, you can find us at the chillpod.co. We're active on Instagram, and you can check out our website if you want to see what it looks like. But yeah, that is really the big thing right now, and growing that into we're starting with a single pod, but it will become an entire lifestyle brand. And so I'm glad that we're chatting now while it's just one thing,
Mm,
and you can stay tuned for what it'll become.
yeah. Well, when there's more products coming out, let me know, and we'll get you
I
back
will.
on.
I definitely will.
Awesome, Kris. Thank you so much for your time. I've really enjoyed our conversation today. But yeah,
Thank
thanks for your time.
you. Thank you. It was great to connect. Thanks for having me on.
Same here. So that's it from Kris and me for this week. But be sure to tune in, same time, same place, next week on Beyond the Pain. Thanks for listening to Beyond the Pain. If this episode resonated, please follow the show, leave a review, or share it with someone you know who's been struggling. And remember, pain is not permanent. With the right insight and support, you can turn it into power. Until next time, stay open, stay strong, and keep moving beyond the pain.